Hello and welcome to Native Yoga Center. My name is Todd McLaughlin. Today I want to show you a couple tips and tricks on how to practice a challenging pose called Urdhva Padmasana. So basically upward lotus pose. And so I'm going to show you some like yoga for beginner style ways to enter into it. I'll give you a couple tips and tricks for how to get into if you're able to put your legs into lotus, but this posture is possible to practice without the lotus, as the lotus pose is a very difficult pose that requires years of training and practice to kind of get the hips and knees ready. So let me give you a few tips and tricks. All right, so first, the upward lotus pose, easy style, how to do as a beginner. So the main essence of the upward lotus pose is a shoulder stand with a plow style position with crossed legs bouncing on the shoulders. Excuse me. All right. So to begin, the easy style or easier style of setup is first to assume, number one, how does the neck feel? It's important that you don't really go into the Urdhva Padmasana if you have any neck pain. So it's a really good idea to make sure your neck is feeling good and you're able to practice a shoulder stand or a plow. So the simplest way to practice the Urdhva Padmasana from a modification perspective is to assume the cross-leg position while laying on your back, to put your hands onto your knees, and you can do like a straight arm position, and you can hold here. And what I'm attempting to do is to pull the belly in nice and strong to create a little platform with the heel of the palm against the knees, and just to tuck the chin down. And what you can do is you can resist with your arms a little bit. So notice what I'm doing is I have my elbows locked out. I have my hands on my knees. And what I'm trying to do is pull my knees toward my body. And then while I'm pulling the knees in, so I'm trying to take my knees and pull them this way. And while you pull in, you take your hands and you put it on your knees. And that way you're able to create a resistance exercise that can be very close to the overall concept and or alignment details of the Urdhva Padmasana. The next stage in the game is to, or in practice of the posture, is to bring your legs above your head like we do in a plow pose, and to simply cross your legs while balancing in the shoulder stand. So because Urdhva Padmasana is done with the legs in lotus typically, where we take our right foot and our left foot into the lotus, and then we would balance with our hands up onto the knee. However, because we're not doing that right now, we're keeping our legs in a cross position. So you're just taking one calf, putting it in front of the other, bending your knees and coming down. But try to keep your knees where they're about the height of your hips. So you're not dropping down like this. This comes later. You keep your knees here. There is a pose in yoga where we have lotus and we try to lift the knees up in this sort of shape. But I think to be a little closer to the Urdhva Padmasana position, having the knees kind of in this angle where they're about the height of the hips is the key. That's part of the key ingredient. So this way we have a modification option, because the big challenge in this pose is the lotus. Padmasana, which is Padma means lotus, so Padma asana, lotus pose. Lotus pose is right foot comes onto the half lotus, and then the left foot makes it the full lotus by doing this cross motion. Only advised after getting the hips sufficiently open. A good indicator of having enough hip pliability or flexibility to sit in lotus is if you can sit with your knees on the floor. If you sit with your feet together and your knees are in the air, there's a really good chance lotus is not a good idea, because what happens is you take this foot in and you go to bring this foot up, and it's too much rotational pressure on your knees. So there's a whole host of poses that come up in primary series, such as Marityasana B, where we start working the half lotus position and we start trying to close this angle. these poses, the Mrityaasanas, and really the entire primary series, in my opinion, does a very good job of getting the body prepared for lotus. Now, in some cases, there's practitioners who, after we investigate potential post-injury or I'm sorry, pre-injury, injury prior to yoga, or even a recent injury, we might determine that we probably or maybe will never do lotus. Because if there's, meniscus tears or like say an MCL tear, or there's some damage to the knees, putting too much rotational pressure on them might be too much. So that's why we're coming up with a strategy for a way to still be active in the practice and really take care of the knees. Now in the Urdhva Padmasana, more or less, what we're doing is we're kind of coming into a position like this while we're up on the neck. So another way we can do it is by actually sitting in cross-leg position, putting the hands on the knees, straight arms, and just work on taking your chin, tuck your chin down towards your throat, squeeze the belly in, and we can still practice the Urdhva Padmasana just without the Urdhva. Urdhva is the upside down component. All right, so now the question is, how would I or could I get into Urdhva Padmasana? So you saw me do it a moment ago, but I'm going to detail the movements that I just did. This assumes that you already have the ability to come into lotus pose while sitting or in any asana for that matter. But typically you're going to learn it while you're sitting down. So I recommend make sure you have your lotus ability first before you attempt to put your lotus together while you're upside down with all the pressure on your neck. And all we're going to do is we're going to put both hands on the back, and we're going to do one hand to pull one foot down. Then we're going to put that hand on the back. We're going to take the other foot up to pull the other hand up to pull the other foot down. And that's how we're going to be able to then come into the Urdhva Padmasana. All right, so I'll demonstrate what that looks like. Basically, remember our options. You can hold here. You can hold here. The next phase is to take your legs up, to bring the right foot down into the half lotus. Now, some people are able to actually do this without the help of the hands, but right now I need to use my hands. So I bring my right leg down in the half lotus, and I need to bring my foot lower. So I'm going to lean my body a little above so I can counterbalance. That way I can remove my left arm, grab my foot, bring my lotus in a little deeper. I'm going to bend this knee to keep the lotus in place. I'm going to take my left hand and put it on my back. Then I'm going to lean over on my left hand, take my right hand free. I'm going to grab a hold of my left foot and gently, without torquing the knees, I'm going to bring the foot down into the lotus. And this way I can work the Urdhva Padmasana with the hands on my back. It is possible to go full position eventually, to take your hands up onto your knees. A good way to start is just to get comfortable here. And so there's a whole, you can come back out of it in reverse order, but there's a method to the structure in terms of putting it in place. And, I'm a really big fan of making sure that we have fun practicing and enjoy the benefits of practice, like increased heat, which can help us it's great for weight loss, really good for generating heat. So it just basically gets all the systems of the body feeling really good, and you feel like amazingly healthy after practice. But the main thing is, if we push too hard and the body's not ready for it and we're trying to force it, we actually can have the opposite effect. So that's why it takes some finesse figuring out how hard, how much, how soft, how little. And this is why we practice every day. A little bit more adds into the understanding, and we figure it out. All right. I think that hopefully answers your questions. If you have any questions watching live, type in the comments. I'll answer them here now. And if you are watching recorded, same deal. I have a new course called 8 and 8, Learn 8-Limb Yoga in 8 days. It's a free online course that, check in the description. You can click on it or go to our website, nativeyogacenter.com. And this way I teach the Ashtanga sun salutation and fundamental asanas and final breathing over an 8-day period. So if you're new to Ashtanga or you've been at Ashtanga a long time and you need a little bit of encouragement that it's okay to do less, check this course out. I think it can really help you. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day.